Alright, time for another video. I've got to address the lost cope of the Fraudstappen fans. And it's this British bias thing. What is this? Where is this British bias cope coming from? How do they even justify it? I don't understand how they justify the British bias thing. Which I suppose is why I'm making this video. You see, the Fraudstappen fans say a lot in the comments and then you ask them questions and they can't answer. I'd like an answer. How do you justify British bias? After, for instance, seriously now, Abu Dhabi 2021, how do you justify British bias in F1 after that? If there was British bias, then the British commentary team in live time, in real time, should have, really, they should have, when Sir Lewis Hamilton says, oh, this feels manipulated on the radio, that gets played out, they should say, well, yes, definitely looks manipulated. Michael Massey is going to have some questions to answer. They should have said something akin to that in real time. Didn't happen though. That's not what happened. Instead, all the commentary was weighted towards Maximilian, and I'll just celebrate Maximilian right now. Don't talk about don't talk about any rules that have been skirted right now. Matter of fact, even in the build-up to it, why is it that Brundle is even entertaining? Oh, you might get another lap of racing here. Why is he even entertaining that if there is British bias? Someone gotta explain that one to me. Really. Someone really gotta explain that one to me. Why is it that when why is it that when, for instance, Maximilian Verstappen almost takes Lando Norris, he does take Lando Norris off the road after this Austria incident, why is it that the British commentary team are not saying, oh, Verstappen should definitely be in trouble for that one? That's some reckless driving over there. Not the incident itself, the forcing Norris off the track. Why are they not saying anything to that effect? But do you guys want to claim there's British bias? That's crazy. That's really crazy to me. People are going to say, I have British bias, but I'm not British. So how does that work? I don't even like the Anglosphere like that, so how does that work? I mean, I have some respect for the Anglosphere this way and that way, but would I want to be British? No. I suppose I would like a British passport, but everyone would like a British passport. But otherwise, I have no real interest in being British, or the Anglosphere as a whole, even including the Americas. I have no interest in that. I mean, you couldn't pay me enough to live in Britbongland or the Americas, so how do we explain the British bias there? That's a curious one to me. That's a real curious one to me. If there was British bias, then during the 2021 season, when Verstappen is doing all types of ridiculousness out on circuit against Sir Lewis Hamilton, why wouldn't they call that out in real time if there's British bias? You see, I'm calling this the lost cope because it's a cope. Number one, it's really a cope. And I just don't, there's no logic for it. There's no logic for it. Some might say, oh, Johnny Herbert was driver steward for the day in Austria. And oh, he did something. I mean, he called the rules as the rules are written. So I don't really know where we get off by just having these fraud Stappen fans all over the comment section saying British bias this way, that way. An Indian man steps in, I suppose he's got. Indian man steps in saying British bias, I suppose he's got some. He's got a vendetta. Why don't we say Indian bias? How come when Eddie Jordan speaks in favor of fraud Stappen, you're not saying British bias? How come when Peter Winsor speaks in favor of Verstappen, we're not saying British bias? I mean, the Brits are fascinating people because they really want to maintain this image of their culture being really fair to people who are not of the culture. That's the whole British shtick. The fairest people on the planet. That's their whole shtick. So there's really no room for British bias. Brundle, anyway, let's talk about Brundle on this British bias topic. He's a fan. He's a fan of Fraud Stappen. What's this Kendrick Lamar? He a fan. He's really a fan of Fraud Stappen. How can he be a fan of Fraud Stappen in the lead up to the 2021 season and through the whole 2021 season and thereafter? And we're talking about British bias. That's bizarre. Some people might say, oh, Ted said 8-time world champion. I mean, Ted spoke facts. I don't know what there is to say about that. I don't know what there is to say about that. It's just bizarre to me. British bias, you know? After everything we've seen? British bias. This is a cope. Y'all gotta drop that cope. Start dealing in facts, because really, there's no evidence for my British cope. There's no evidence for my British bias. There's just none. The Brits don't even cope about it, to be frank about it. Let me finish that. The Brits don't even cope about these things. Right? This is the whole shtick of them being the most fair. They don't even cope about these things. They just say, oh, Maximilian is just that good. They don't even mention the illegal Red Bull or none of this. Breach budget cap or any of that. It's not a. They don't make it a topic. If there was British bias in the commentary, believe you me, they would have been talking about that Red Bull being illegal extensively. On race broadcast. But they haven't done that. They haven't done that. Instead, they've made sure Maximilian gets the shine ahead of all the British drivers via the commentary. And you guys still have the gumption to come onto channels that deal in truth, and you're talking about British bias? That's crazy. That's crazy to me, man. So what, if Hulkenberg wins the Grand Prix, we're gonna say German bias, or what's going on here? Might as well get stupid with it. Like, there's no real point in trying to be sensible at that point. You see, I've been losing grey matter reading some of these smooth brain Verstappen comments. Really have. Really have. These Verstappen fans got smooth brain, and that smooth brain is contagious as a motherfucker. So, seriously, sincerely, y'all best stop that. The only one time that I've heard Brundle talk frankly about something Fraudsteppen has done out on circuit was Vegas. Vegas, that was the one time when Fraudsteppen forgot that turn one was 100 meters after the start line. That's the only time I've really heard Brundle talk frankly about Fraudsteppen needing to get the penalty for that, and a harsh one. Any other time, he's not applying that lens of objectivity to Fraudsteppen. He did it there because, well, he's against the Monegasque driver. I suppose we can call both of these evenly. When there's a Brit involved, the Brits call against the British driver. If y'all not picked this up, seriously, if they call for the British driver, what are y'all gonna say? British bias. That's what y'all gonna say. So they never actually call in favor of a British driver. They might get they might get excited when George Russell grabs a win or something, of course. But really, they never actually commentate for the British drivers. It never happens. Never happens, has never happened. I mean, even Button, when he was getting his championship at Brawn, right? Even Button, they were crediting the car over Button. Now, of course, someone might say, "Oh, well, the car was designed by Brawn. He's British as well, so it's still British bias." You can run that to your heart's content, but they didn't. They didn't call. They didn't call it for Button. They might comment on his smooth driving style, which he is objectively one of the most smooth drivers that we've seen in F1. But other than that, really, they were actually rooting for Vettel. But y'all can still say British bias. It's weird to me. It's really weird to me. When it was Sir Lewis Hamilton versus Rosberg, they were calling in favor of Rosberg. They wanted Rosberg to do the thing. British bias? You know, the Brits are stubbornly anti-British. You know, when it comes to this F1 thing, they're stubbornly anti-British. Of course, they like British driver on the grid and all of that. Of course, oh, it's a Brit driver. We really like this guy. We believe he's got the talent, all of that. They'll say all of that, but when they're calling it real time, they never call. They never commentate for a British driver. That's never how it's worked. Because they're more aware than any of y'all here on this here internet, this webosphere. They're more aware than anyone that if they call for a British driver, people are going to start saying British bias. And it doesn't matter which broadcaster they're working with, Sky or BBC or what have you, they never call for the British driver. Channel 4, any of these things. Y'all really, y'all really in a psychosis all of your own. These Fraudsteppen fans, seriously? In your own psychosis. I didn't see Ferrari fans or Vettel fans or Charlie Leclerc fans saying British bias when it was Ferrari versus Mercedes. I, I didn't see any of that. I'm so gobsmacked, even like having to recall this stuff. Like I didn't hear any of that. Sir Lewis Hamilton jumps the chicane in Canada or what have you, after being forced off circuit or whatever. None, they don't mention that, oh, Vettel gave him really no choice but to go off circuit. They say, oh, Sir Lewis Hamilton, he should probably be penalized for that. To this day, I still don't agree with that call, but. But hey, they didn't have any British bias. Never has been the case. So I need y'all to put that away or genuinely explain where it happened. Give me a race. Give me a race weekend. I'll go scout it out, no doubt. I'll give the commentary a sincere listen. But I tell you what, you're going to have a very difficult time finding it. Unless you're not actually hearing things objectively. But anyway, let me end the video there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.